Hey friends! I'm Jessefisco.
And I'm Ambryfisco.
As founders of several successful businesses, we've experienced absolute joy and satisfaction working together to build our empire.
Our journey started off as a small business idea and has launched into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. It would have never been possible had Jesse and I not understood the key principles of making it all work together. But it has not been easy.
We found ourselves in the trenches trying to balance real life with business life while maintaining our strong commitment to creating an amazing marriage.
And we've emerged in a beautiful way together. This podcast was created to help you do what we've done, build an amazing marriage together while maintaining balance between life and business.
So here we are. You're listening to the Matrimonial Merger, a couple's guide to balancing life and business.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the Matrimonial Merger. Jesse and Ambry here, and you guys, today's episode is amazing. We got a question from a listener.
Our favorite kind.
Our favorite kind. And
everyone
who is on an entrepreneur journey, who wants to create a business or just wants to better their life and take more control of their work and their flow, you need to listen to this episode because these questions, we're going to dive in deep and we're going to go all in and release just pull back the veil a little bit on our business and what we've done to really go through and create massive financial wealth for us.
Absolutely. Should I read the question?
Yes, let's get started. I'm super excited.
All right. So this listener, she asked, how do you go about finding monetary resources, knowledge resources, or even know what's available out there to get started as a business? Questions a lot of us have, how do you find a good niche? How do you find a space and a spot for the skills and interests that you have when you might feel how does this fit into a business? Or, could this be a business? Where can you look for more resources or information and feel confident in being able to figure that out? This is so awesome. I love this because I think no matter where you're at in your journey, this is something that a lot of us can relate to, and it is something that really can become a problem and that really can cause us to kind of hold back and not reach our full potential because there's question marks, right?
I was going to say because of those question marks, some people don't even start, right?
Yeah.
They just get super nervous. Yes. And then there are some that go, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. And they don't even give themselves enough time.
Yes.
They're expecting to, in essence, have 6-pack abs overnight with their business. And it is possible. There are things, but what we're going to dig deep into today and what we're going to talk about, we're going to show you how it's possible.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot more than what you've never considered before. It's not just open up a sign or post on Facebook, hey, I now own a business. That's not the way it works. There's a lot of mental, it's a lot of mindset, removing limitations, right? And I mean, I can relate to this really well because, you just mentioned a minute ago, Jesse, that a lot of times this becomes something you don't even start. You just don't do it because of all these question marks, which I can totally that resonates so deeply with me because that's who I was. That's how I used to feel. If there were all these question marks and I couldn't fill in each piece right now and know exactly, what it was going to be and this, I just wouldn't do it. Yeah. Because it would be there's too much unknown. I'm not even going to take the first step. Yeah.
So part of this is we're going to talk about that. How do you get past that and take the first step? And really that's what creates the domino effect. Just taking that first step.
100%. So let's talk about this. We're just going to break it down. Number one is determining your purpose, right? And what you want to do. You see, all of us have been given these amazing gifts, all these qualities. Yeah. Ambry, you and I have this amazing gift to get on a microphone and just speak our opinion and not really care what other people will say, right? To some that is not a gift. But we've been given this opportunity and this privilege to really just speak our minds freely. But you have to determine what it is you like and what it is that motivates the heck out of you.
I'll be the first to say at one point, like if you would have told me that we'd be doing this, I'd be like, no, like that's so out of my comfort zone. Like there's no way. Like I would have been like, absolutely not.
Right. And we'll
so
use
there's a journey for everything, right?
And we can use the process of this podcast as an example throughout these 5 tips that we're going to give you. But like every one of us has some topic in their life that is just like, it is a fire. It is a motivator. It is like, I will die for this.
Yeah.
Right. And some people have it on religion. Some people have it on health and medicine. And for me, I will die trying to prove to people that they are a creator, that they have more in the tank than they even know is possible if they would just open up their minds and use the resources that they have been given. And so that's one thing that, like, you've got to find your purpose, what just motivates the living heck out of you. And that's step number 1. Right?
Well,
because
it could be something that, like, when people are talking and it's like a topic that's brought up, you're kind of almost thinking like it's just like bursting out of you, and you're almost like, I got to hold this back. Like I got to like tone this down because I just feel like I'm about to like explode with energy about this topic because there's so much I am passionate about around it, right? Like I feel that in certain ways, like when I'm talking to someone, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like hold me back. Like
it's like, I'm going to puke up my passions all over you right now.
Yes,
exactly. And I don't even care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, become curious about this because this could look different for everyone. It also could look like something that maybe currently you're like almost trying to hide. Like maybe it's something you've struggled with or something that you, you feel passionate about, but that you haven't really let the world know yet, right?
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like holding it in. Like I have a friend that has a ton of knowledge about like hormones. And there was a time in her life she was really like struggling with a certain aspect of her hormones, and she almost kind of hid it, right? Like it was like almost embarrassing, or like she struggled with it. And we don't like to let people know like our struggles and weaknesses, right? Well, fast forward now, like the business she owns is literally built around that very thing.
Amazing.
And supporting and empowering other women who have struggled and do struggle with the same thing.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Like, you know what, once for so long, she like just kind of held back and almost hid behind the curtain. Now she's empowering other women and teaching and making money in the process. So it could be something like that.
Exactly. And what I would say is, number 1, consider the weak things that you have in your life. What if they could actually be strong for you?
Yeah, just like the scriptures say, that's powerful.
Right.
Like, and I believe that there is so much reason and purpose behind that, because when there's something that you struggle with, or maybe you have to really like fight for or work hard for, it means something to you.
100%.
And you learn more in the process because you have to, like, it's part of the journey, right? Part of the becoming. So
absolutely. So I'd say step number 1 is just find that thing that you're super, super motivated about, that just inspires the heck out of you. Right. And once you determine that, understand and come to terms with yourself. Like, all right, what is my purpose behind this? Why? Like for me, I grew up, my parents divorced. I defeated the odds. I went and I played music. I toured with a band. And then I turned around and I went and served an ecclesiastical mission. And then I did all these things. I'm the first person to ever go and like actually in my family go serve a mission that I'm aware of. And then also like I'm the first person to go to college, and, my sister went to college as well, but like go through and make different changes, right? So I was kind of a pioneer in essence for future generations to pave a different way. But throughout that process and throughout all that change and all the bullcrap that I got for making those decisions from people around me and friends, I learned that like I am more powerful than I ever thought I was. And that's where that mission and that
you learned and improved your resiliency
drive,
and like your ability to just like defy and push and
right, because I found that I wasn't going to let people define me of who I was going to be. I was going to create my own person because I saw what was possible with people driving fancy cars and having big houses. I saw that and I was like, why not me?
Yeah.
And because of that, yes, there were times where I would hold that back a little bit because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings by being so, in essence, defiant to what they believed. But then it just motivated me. And I found more and more as I shared that, it grew into even more opportunities. Right? So you've got to find. And now you want to help
others create that in their own life.
Totally, because everyone deserves it.
And like, that's kind of like what you're saying about finding your purpose, right?
Yes.
And I would say the majority of the time, if not all the time, that purpose has to do with like your story.
100%.
Like, understand your story. What makes you who you are? What makes you passionate about the things you're passionate about? What makes you frustrated about the things that frustrate you? You know, like, what's the reason behind that? And like, that truly will motivate you and give you such a sense of purpose and a higher purpose, right? Not just like the here and now, but like, what is it about this that can serve your higher purpose? Like your ultimate purpose in this life, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And if you can identify that and it's aligned, then the absolute like passion and fire you'll have behind you in the process is going to be incredible because, you know, unknowns will come. The roadblocks or the changes or uncertain things, or not even uncertain, but like unexpected things. Once those things happen, it's not going to be the fatality of your idea or your dream.
Yes.
Right? Because you have a purpose that is higher than that uncertainty.
100%. And I would say we have, within a merge, we have a 5-figure course that we sell. And one of the very first things is this, getting familiar with your story and getting to understand yourself. And that is huge. People pay money to literally be taught to understand themselves. Yeah. And that's, once again, like, this is going to lead right into, tip number 2, or like the process of this, because what I'm going to say here is I literally created a coaching course. Like, Ambry and I focused on it. We got very specific, and we were going to do this together, but then found that there needed to be some small shifts made. So this is hence the podcast. We found that we could do this together in a podcast form where she could still be mom and not be in the coaching aspect right now.
I can still do it here and there and help people, but it's not like it's not an obligation. It's more aligned with like what I want and need currently.
100%. So hence the podcast. And so,
which is way more fun because it's just like a weekly date night.
Exactly. It's way more fun. But see, that's the thing, is like moving over to step number 2 is, number 1, before I jump into step number 2, I just want to say that anything in this world can be sold.
Oh, yeah.
Anything.
Let's get that out right at the get-go, because I think that that's one thing that holds a lot of people back, is thinking like, okay, well, like, here's the thing. When you have something that you're really good at or you're passionate about, you might know that like not everyone can do that, right? But you also, because it's like almost easy for you now, right? You're so good at it that it's kind of like you don't see the value like other people might. So you kind of discredit yourself and the ability. It's like, well, there's probably like a whole bunch of other people that can do this just as good, if not better than me. Or, oh, like, is this really that special? Like there's already businesses out there that, are kind of built around this, or, I'm probably not the only person that can do this. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Sure. Probably. There's probably a lot of other people that can do it, but are they you? Do they have your passion? Do they know the same people you know? Like, our lives and our networks and the people we know and like who we are, like our circles of people that we are placed around is not by coincidence. And it's that way for a reason.
100%.
This world wasn't created that there should be, 1 or even 10 or 100 people that do this one thing and are really good at it. Like, you have something special. Yeah. Just by being you.
And here's a great example. One of our businesses we have is a real estate business, and there are over 8,500 real estate agents in the state of Utah. And yet, somehow, some way, Ambry and I have climbed up to be named top 10 3 years in a row. Right? Like, those are things that, are we special? Do we have a gift? Yes, we have a gift of coaching people.
And believing in
ourselves.
Like, what we can offer and what we can do.
But there's 8,500 people. If you put us all in a room and listed us all off, it's ridiculous. There's so many people. But that's the thing, is how many different versions of clothing is there? How many different versions of, shoes? There are so many. So what makes you so unique?
Right. And it goes back to that purpose, right? Then, like, step number 1, because I mean, okay, let's talk about this podcast again for a minute. Like there's been several times before this podcast was born that I had thought like, oh, that'd be cool to start a podcast. Like, yeah, maybe someday I'll do that. Like, but I never really like, there's no intention behind it or purpose behind it. Right. But it was like, oh, that'd be cool. But at the same time and in the same thought, I'm thinking like, oh, no one would want to listen to me. Like, what do I have to offer? You know, like, are people actually going to listen? Like, do I actually have something to say? Like, how do I even create a platform?
Which is
how
hilarious.
do I just all these question marks, right? That like, no, like that's too much.
Yeah.
Well, then like we actually decide we're starting this podcast and we had a purpose. We felt a purpose behind it. We also chose to hire a coach and a producer to help us do it the right way, which I think was key. Like that's another thing that like we'll get into, but like we went through this whole process of designing like exactly why we were doing the podcast, who we were talking to, what our purpose was, what we, you know, all these things to the point where like I like we believed it and we knew that it was going to be incredible. And now like, you know, I get messages from people about, hey, I just listened to a podcast, or I have a question, or like, hey, can you like clarify something that you said in this episode? And I'm like, I get so excited because I'm like, once upon a time, like I would have laughed and thought like, no, like that's silly, right?
Sure.
And now it's like because of the purpose that was created behind this, I'm not surprised when I get a message like that because I knew that would happen. And I felt like the fire about it. And I know I feel this passion about it that like when I get a text or a message like that, like I'm like, I feel humbled. I'll be honest. Like I'm like, I still feel like a huge sense of humility because I'm like, wow, like it's a huge compliment when you hear someone else is listening to you and they, you know, they're learning something or whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, this is why, like, this is the purpose behind this. So it makes me so excited. And then coming to record this podcast, like, I'm like hyped. I'm like, this is so great. Like, let's do it. And so once again, like finding that purpose is going to give you so much more like drive, motivation, passion, and help you feel like this actually could be something that I can make money from.
100%. One of the biggest things as we move into step number 2 and start to elaborate more on that is like, always remember that people pay money for frozen water, right? They literally pay money for ice.
Yeah.
And then there are people that pay money to jump in a bath of ice, and then they turn around and jump in a shower of hot water. So keep that in mind. Like, if you can sell ice, you're fine. Yeah. There's demand everywhere. Like, we live in the greatest country in the entire world. There's demand here. So,
well, we're laughing. We're in Utah right now, and there's like a ton of snow outside.
Yeah.
Well, like last week, we got a ton of snow, and like you still have people walking past like mounds of snow in their yard, in the parking lot, wherever, and walking into like a plunge place or whatever to go do an ice bath. Yep. It's like, well, you could have just like sat out in the snow in your front yard.
Right. You could have done that.
But they're paying for an experience. They're paying for like, you know, like someone's someone's purpose. So
exactly.
Yes. Everything can be monetized. And how cool when it also aligns with your higher purpose.
I'm going to go crazy here. You want to talk about everything can be monetized?
Okay.
I listened to a health podcast where they talked about actually encapsulating other pro athletes' poop.
Fecal matter. Sounds a little better.
And ingesting it. And there's a purpose behind that.
The microbiome.
Benefits. That goes into your gut.
Yeah.
And that will help you. And how you can actually start to change biologically
so
by swallowing someone's crap. Like that is.
So someone can sell that, then you can do anything you
literally,
want.
crap is being sold.
Oh, that's.
So.
Yeah. Anyways.
Back to step number 2 here. All right. So you've got your idea. You've got your purpose. Now what we're going to challenge you to do is you need to just figure out by listing a bunch of ways how to sell your product.
Yeah.
How do you market it? What could you do? And just get creative. And I told someone to do this the other day. I said, write down 5 things every day for 30 days. Yeah. At the end of the 30 days, you'll have 150 different ways you can sell your product or market your product or even figure out what you're offering. And you know what? At the end of that, I told the guy, I said, you can thank me with $1 million check. right? Like, because
awesome.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
You'll have 150 different ways. In fact,
it makes you become curious because after 3 days, like, oh, how do, like, you have to really dig deep and also think of branches off of the other ideas you've already written down, or, like it goes deeper.
100%. And that's what Ambry and I did. We sat down and we wrote down a list of different ways we can market our podcast. We wrote down a list of different things that we would talk about and the different people and who we'd be attracting and what type of books they read and what type of movies they watch. And we literally put this entire list together and created our ideal target audience and the way that we were going to run this show.
And like, if you're finding yourself at a blank, like this isn't an exam, like jump on Google and, look at things other people have done.
Yes.
Like there's no rules here.
Right.
So like consider ways other people have been successful in that market or with that talent or, that whatever it is that you are wanting to elaborate on or wanting to expand on for yourself. Like there's probably other people out there that have done something similar. So what are they doing that is successful and, consider how you could do that with your talent.
And here's the deal. Like Elon Musk, he works 40 to 80 hours a week, right? He works 40 hours a week, but he has billions of dollars. All right? You work 40 hours a week, and what do you make?
Yeah.
Okay? So the time is still there.
Right.
But what it is like if we just compared effort, you and there was nothing else associated but just effort, everyone will be a billionaire. Because most people are putting in $1 billion effort into their job, right? But what they're not putting the effort into is their own mind, and they have $1 billion effort, but they have $100,000 or less mind that they're underutilizing.
Yeah.
So imagine if you could take it to $1 billion mind with $1 billion effort.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
And the only way it starts is if you just start listing different ways and getting creative.
And what are you willing, like, how far are you willing to go, right? Because, okay, small tangent, but trust me, it will apply. So, like, someone that's very important to me right now is experiencing some, like, health challenges and, is basically on a track medically that, like, if nothing changes, they'll receive, like, a lifetime diagnosis that, quote-unquote, has no cure, right? Well, I know when I've dived into a lot of research on this topic and know that, like, that's not necessarily true. I mean, in some cases, sure, maybe, but, like, there are ways to, like, combat and to defy the odds and to cure this, right? And, like, I was talking about this today with somebody, and it's, like, the reason that, like, maybe a certain condition is deemed incurable for someone is potentially because, like, they're not willing to put in the effort of, doing it a different way, right? Yep. Like, if all they know is, like, one way, and they're not willing to research or look at other ideas or get creative and compound on and support the, like, medicine that's, and the doctors that are helping them to, like, find other ways to support that. That's why most people don't experience, quote unquote, a cure, right? But if you're willing to go out and try something different and, like, get creative and do your own research and be your own advocate, like, so bring that back to, like, your business, right? Or your idea. Like, the reason that a lot of people, their idea doesn't actually propel or become a business is because they're not willing to look at it from a different angle or to try a different thing, right? Or to put in, an hour more of effort than, they maybe would have otherwise.
Yeah, one of my mentors told me, he's like, Jesse, if you were trying to create a new, like, soda, it's like, you couldn't go and create Coca-Cola and beat out Coca-Cola. He's like, you couldn't. You could not mirror and match and copy Coca-Cola to a T and be better than Coca-Cola.
Right.
He's like, what you have to do is you have to branch off and create your own and then scale up. Yeah. And you can become close to what Coca-Cola is, but you'll never be able to do it. And just like you said, you have to branch out and try something different.
Right.
But it's okay.
But if you have a purpose, like,
right.
I mean, let's just say that, like, let's say you like somehow made the exact same formulation as Coca-Cola or whatever else out there, right? Mm-hmm. But it had a completely different purpose, different marketing, different mission, different, like, audience, you could probably do just as well. And like people would never even be like, oh, this tastes like the exact same product, because they're experiencing something different. They're going after a different message, a different purpose, right? So like what you have is unique and is like incredible in and of itself. So don't discount that.
Exactly. And so, all right, you've written down your things, your 150 things. Now what we're going to do is over to step number 3. And we're going to invite you to identify 25 people, right, that are doing what you do.
Yeah.
Maybe
doing what you want.
Doing what you want. All right. So maybe you are really like you want to be a vocalist. All right. So who are your top 25 people that very much inspire you, right? And you've got to identify them. And it doesn't have to be celebrities. It doesn't have to be people at the top, but who are 25 people that have been there doing it, right? Because you need to surround yourself with people. Yeah. All right. I remember sitting at a conference, and I've shared this story. Billionaires up there talking. He's like, does anyone have any questions? And I'm like, can I come intern for you? Right? The greatest asset I give is my time. And so I'm willing to give all of it to learn from this gentleman. And then he comes back, and as his stories continue to evolve, he says, you know what? I don't want you to intern for me. I'm going to answer some questions for you, but I'm going to go ahead and charge you a price, which is minimal compared to the outcomes. I mean, this guy's literally for under $13,000 is willing to open up $1 billion system and business and the way the inner workings, like literally most people would pay for that rather than going to college.
Yeah. And this person in particular, like, I mean, he loves that. Like, you know, he finds great purpose and happiness in like doing that. And so it's like such a cool thing that, you know, sure, he can make a little extra money doing that. Right. Because I'm guessing for him, like $13,000 isn't like,
that's a drop in the bucket.
It's not gonna like impact his life that much, right? Like he could get, like he'd be fine without it.
But you see, the reason why he's doing that, but the reason why he's doing that is because he can't sit out there and serve everyone.
No, and he understands that there's power in you paying and investing in yourself. You'll be more all in and more like you'll have better results if you have like put out an energy exchange in the form of money. Exactly.
It's not about the money.
Right.
Right. It's about the energy and the willingness to actually go do it. He doesn't want to waste his time with someone that just doesn't show up.
Yeah. And isn't going to execute and do.
Exactly. Yeah. So identify your 25 people or even the characteristics of these people. Yeah. Right? Get specific. Give yourself time to actually analyze and think, because your brain is so closely linked to deity that there are so many opportunities and what I would call revelation that could come to you by just getting quiet and studying it out in your mind first.
Yeah. I like that. I went to an event last week that was put on by like some women entrepreneurs in Utah, right? And it was really cool. There was a few super incredible ladies there. Like one was the owner of the Mix Hers company, which is really popular here in Utah. And I mean, it's expanded beyond Utah, obviously, but because it was built in Utah, like it's a big deal here. Another was like Ivy City Co. dresses. And there were a few more, but one thing that I thought was super impactful that was said, two things. So one was actually a friend of mine who owns her own like fitness coaching and athletic wear company. If you want her information, you can send me a message. She sells really awesome athletic clothes for women. But she said like when you're looking at like a mentor or like someone that, you know, you want to learn from. So look at someone who's like 5 steps in front of you, not like 500 steps in front of you, but someone like 5 steps in front of you. So you can identify like those next steps and achieve them, right? And keep that process going. So like, I think you should have on your list of 25 that you're going to create, have people that are like, have a business valued like millions more than you are now. Right. But also like someone who's kind of like just past where you are trying to get, right? So that like you can learn from them. And the other thing that I thought was really cool was a couple of these business owners who like in my mind, like have done incredible things and built this successful business. They were like send us a message. Like, come talk to us after this event. Like, chances are, like, they're like, we know this is true for us, but chances are other entrepreneur women or men or whatever out there, they want to help. They're willing to give you answers and information. They're willing to take, go to lunch or take 15 minutes of their time and like talk to you. And I think sometimes we're afraid to reach out to someone because, I don't know, we like feel inferior or we feel like, oh, they don't have time for me or whatever. But like, think as you're like writing that list of 25 people, keep some of them like in your mind and go out and reach out to them, especially if it's like a local, like small, medium-sized business. And that's kind of what you're aspiring to start. Like, go send them a message on Instagram, or better yet, send them an email, like reach out, show up to their office, like whatever you need to do, like become known and network and learn. And I think that sometimes we're just afraid of the learning, right? Because what if they can't, or what if they say no? Like, okay, sure, that could happen. But what if they like are excited to share with you because they're a like person with feelings and emotions and intentions just like you, and they've been where you're at. Yes. And so seeing someone like you aspiring probably puts fire under them and says like, you can do it, and here's how, because I've been there and I've done it too. So don't be afraid to reach out to people and like ask the questions and be curious.
100%. So leading over to that, you've identified people, you've written down a list of ways to sell your product or make money, and you've kind of just considered all the options that make the most sense for you right now. We're going to lead over to number 4, which is just freaking do it. Just execute, right?
So how do you execute though, Jesse?
Well, and that's the thing is execute.
On what?
On the things that you've done. Like, start putting things together and asking yourself, like, quit telling yourself, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I don't know. Ask yourself, if you could know.
Yeah.
What would it be? Because chances are that you're just in a state, an emotional state of not knowing, but could you actually move yourself over to a state of knowing?
Yeah.
And being more curious and asking yourself, okay, here's an example. All right, awesome. And I'll tell you, in fact, I'll just share an example right here. Okay, I need to reduce my video spend on the content I'm producing because it gets excessive when you're spending a bunch of money on YouTube and on Instagram. Okay, great. What do I need? Well, I need to reduce my cost. And
I still want good quality.
But I still want top tier, better than what I have. Okay, cool. How am I going to get that? I don't know yet. But I'm going to tell myself, if I could know, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to start talking
what
to
are we
more,
not considering?
Right.
Like, what have we not thought about? Because we only know what we know, right? Like, what do I not know?
So I'm going to just start asking around. And I'm going to start considering things. Well, lo and behold, someone comes up on a Facebook post and says, hey, my son's looking for work. All right. Well, because I'm curious about that, I'm like, does your son do video editing? I don't hear anything. No video editing skills. So, okay, cool. Well, I'm looking, but I know what I want. I know specifically I need someone that can edit video, top tier quality, better than me, to help me reduce money. And you know what? The other two things that were associated with that is, because I'm saving money, I need to provide value to this individual. I was going to say,
that's also important to you, feeling like you're like giving back, and you're also empowering someone, especially like a young person, to like believe in themselves, right? Because that has a like higher value and higher purpose to you than just like, paying someone money to like do something.
Correct. And then the last and final thing was they needed to have a better camera than what I had. So long story short, I post on this Facebook group, nothing. Someone reaches out to me and they go,
someone saw your comment.
Someone saw my comment and they're like, you know what? Have you considered interns? I'm like, no, I haven't considered an intern. Well, guess what? Westlake High School is one of the top, which is local here in Saratoga, one of the top areas and like feeding houses of of video editors. Yeah. And it's like, cool, awesome.
They have a whole group of, I don't know what the right word is, but
just a group of students that just love it and are passionate about it, and their teacher over there is just super passionate. So what happens is I go to the school and I just sit down and have a conversation.
Within like a few days, you had a meeting with the teacher and like their intern coordinator or whatever her title is.
Exactly. So I sat down and they said, guess what? We have the perfect intern for you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, no kidding. Cool. Well, does he have a camera? Well, he can use the school's equipment. Okay, what kind of camera equipment? Way higher than what I ever expected. Awesome. When can he start? And I'm like, I can't pay you. And the student that was sitting there looked at me. He's like, I don't want to get paid because this is a ton of value for me to work with the company, to see these
resume.
things. I appreciate this. This is what I'm working for. And I'm like, no kidding. I got so aligned with the things that I wanted that I just started executing. I started looking for it.
And a few weeks later, we brought in another intern from the same high school program.
And literally.
And they've been fantastic.
And the content's changed. In fact, this intern comes up and he's like, hey, your videos suck.
Yeah.
And he said that in a nicer way. But he's like, your videos suck and we need to do this, this, and this. Cool. And I'm like, dude, you're absolutely right.
He's an entrepreneur.
He's an entrepreneur and he's already crafted. He's 17 years old, already has his craft and is like, I'm going to take over your marketing and help you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is amazing. Yeah. And not only that, but then he found the camera equipment that I had and he actually made it even better.
Yeah.
And so now, we don't even use the school's equipment because my equipment was sufficient enough.
He knows how to optimize it and use, the lighting we have and make it even better.
Right. So you just get specific. Once again, higher quality than what I had, provide value, save money. All three of those things were very, very important to me. And before I knew it, this particular intern's sitting here and I'm like, I need to pay you.
And now you're executing on what you wanted to do.
Now I'm like, I finally find someone that is giving me exactly what I want. I need to pay this kid.
Yeah.
And now that's my next goal is, okay, I want to keep him, I want to pay him, and I want to help him create massive financial success as well.
Build his future.
Exactly. But it gets down into the details and then you execute based off of what you want and what you know your purpose is.
Yeah. And you might be thinking right now, okay, step number 4, simple, just execute, just do it, right? Sounds simple, but if you're listening on the other end and, you haven't started this process yet, you're like, well, what the freak am I executing on, right? What in the world am I supposed to do? But I just want to say, to give you a little bit of hope or confidence as you've gone through steps 1 through 3, I guarantee you have things that you can execute on that are simple and that are right in front of you and that are achievable, and things will start happening. People will start coming into your life. Resources will fall right into your lap because you've completed those steps 1 through 3 and started that process. Yes. Because in talking to the people you've talked to, in creating the lists you've created, in designing your purpose, all of those things are going to give you plenty of things to start and to execute on.
Right.
And from there, any of those unknowns that come, you're going to power through them. You're going to have people in your life that have resources that you didn't before. You're going to jump on Google and just start, going through things and finding more resources. Things will happen as you've done that building and you've kind of designed the process. The executing will seem a lot easier and less daunting than it may seem right now.
Yeah. And to go along with that, all of your fears, all of the things that are oh man, this is too hard. It's no longer difficult because you have the plan, the audience, what you're doing, and you just stick with it. And great news happens is all of a sudden you start to see a little bit of money come in. So then you look at it and go, hey, I'm going to start to double down on the things that are working.
Invest back into the process.
Yes, I'm going to invest in this. If Facebook ads are making you money, then why wouldn't you invest more money into Facebook ads? There's no deviation of, I should really go consider adding a different ad revenue stream to my business when you could literally just go back to the very same thing that's making you money and scale it that way.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things a mentor told me is to have $1 million product, you need one offering and one lead source. That's it. And you just do that consistently.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't try to go
process.
Do Facebook ads and then jump over and do a YouTube channel and then jump over and do an Instagram handle. You don't do that, right? You literally say, okay, I'm crushing it with Facebook ads on this offering. I'm just going to ride this out until I make it $1 million. And then once you hit that $1 million, you've pretty much sucked the life out of that one offering. So then you go create another and you do it again.
Yeah.
And then you start to branch out.
Then you perfected that process and rinse and repeat.
And it's not even until the $3 million range when you start to branch out to other ad spend revenue making things. So you could literally scale your business with one offering and one ad revenue or one ad spend, right? Or platform it's a better word, you can literally scale up to $3 million.
Oh, that's cool.
And it doesn't have to be difficult, right? But too many times people are over there making it difficult because once again, they're not following these plans. They don't have a plan. They don't have they don't
there's
have
no
anything
clarity
to
of purpose.
execute
So
on.
then what, right? Like
exactly.
Which leads perfectly to number 5.
Yes.
Which, the final is just like direct obedience to your purpose.
Yes.
And if you do that and you're constantly like obedient to your purpose, you're aligned, like it'll be simple when, other opportunities arise or you're like, oh, should we do this or not? Well, okay, does it align with what you've created in steps 1 through 3 of this process we just went through? If it does, great. If not, like it's easy for you to, decide. And yeah.
Imagine it being this easy. Like we're literally talking and it's like we make it sound easy, but it is this easy.
Yeah, it really can be. And I mean, I think even still, like there's going to be like unknowns. There's going to be things that you're not sure, but it's okay. That's honestly like that can be exciting because it's like that means there's opportunity to learn and grow. Mm-hmm. And that means that like you're going to learn and grow. And that means that the next time you start something or the next phase of your business is going to be that much better and that much and things will happen that much faster because you've laid the foundation and you've you focused on yourself, you've invested in yourself, and like maybe you hire a coach, right? Like maybe you hire someone or invest in someone that is on that list of who's already doing it, right? And that's okay, right? Like that's something that can be very powerful, is to have someone in your circle that is already doing it and who can teach you. And sometimes like, bits and pieces of that can be knowledge that people just want to freely give, right? But like obviously time is valuable. And if you can, provide an exchange of energy in the form of money to someone who's already doing it, I think that there's a lot of power in that because they want to help you, right? They also are able to monetize on something that they are doing that they're really good at, which is what you ultimately want to do, right? So see that value, see the opportunity and the value to learn from other people, whether, in some cases it won't cost you anything. Maybe it'll cost you like buying someone lunch or, whatever, or just investing in their product, investing in what they're doing. But I think a lot of the things that we've, most recently done and things that we've launched that have become and are becoming very successful, we have hired someone who's an expert. We've hired someone who, has an outside view who can walk us through the details and help us define and create the clarity that we need. So, all of that, like, just ties back in, but like, stay obedient to your purpose. Like, let's go back through the list. So first, like, you're going to determine your purpose, what motivates you, what like gives you passion. Second, write a list of ways that you can monetize that product or service or talent. How can you make money doing that? Use some research if you need to. Number 3, identify 25 people who are doing it, who are where you want to be. Whether they're 5 steps ahead of you or 500 steps ahead of you, like create a list of people that you admire who are doing it. Number 4, execute, go for it, do it. Like just go, take that first step, and that first step isn't going to compound and domino.
Yes.
Sometimes that's all it is. Just that first step is so hard to take sometimes because you're just afraid. But get rid of that fear, like bet on yourself and go for it. And then number 5 is just, stay true to your purpose.
Stay true. And that's the one thing is like, as you stay true, it may feel boring. At some point, you may be like, I'm making this money. Like, this is too easy. There's got to be a better way. Or there's got to be more effort I need to put into it. When realistically, you've designed the perfect thing. It's a smooth working machine.
Yeah.
You would never go and jump onto a Ferrari that's operating perfectly and start twisting bolts and nuts. You wouldn't do that. But see,
very true.
A lot of times when we don't have this plan or this purpose and this focus, we go in there and start meddling with the very thing that is
already
operating
like working
smoothly.
Well for you.
Exactly. And we start to throw more stress because it's like, oh my gosh, like, is this really like my reality?
Yeah. Well, sometimes easier. It is like those dichotomies of like, we've talked about this before, but like if it's too good to be true, like it must be, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas like we've shifted that into like, if it's too good to be true, it's for me. Like,
right.
You know, like you deserve that.
100%.
So
there's so much more, you know, as you get to these 5 points, what you soon realize is that there are mental blockages that are keeping you from growing, because doing this is easy. But then when you get to that number 5 and your direct obedience with your purpose, well, then you start to find as you're scaling more, there are other blockages that are not business, it's mental.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, we come into play and really help eliminate some of those mental dichotomies and exceptions, those things that you have accepted in your life as a limitation. Yeah. And that's where we come in and say, okay, we're going to erase that, and we're going to help you, and we're going to continue to scale and grow. And that's what makes this so much fun.
And what I love about that is like, if you are experiencing that kind of feedback in your life where you are like uncovering limiting beliefs, you're uncovering like the things that could be holding you back, way to go. Because that means you're doing something. That means you're going somewhere. That means you're not sitting around like waiting. That means you are like, that should be like a huge indication of success for you, an indication of coming success, an indication of current success. But like, if you're uncovering things that you have to like be aware of and change and adjust in your life, congrats. Like, you're arriving, because that won't happen if you're remaining like in your comfort zone and not pushing those limits a little bit. So 100%. As much as that might seem like, this isn't fun, like be excited about that and let it motivate you, because you're not experiencing that feedback if you're not doing something.
100%. So, you guys, these are the top 5 tips. These are what Ambry and I have been doing and have been scaling businesses. This is amazing. The very fundamentals of this podcast were built off these very things as well. And we are seeing massive growth day by day as we continue to be directly obedient to our purpose and what we're doing. And it makes it so much fun when we get amazing questions like this from you as the listener. Thank you
so much. I was so excited about this. In fact, like this, my friend reached out and she's like, hey, you know, like I listened to this podcast. I have a question. Like, can you tell me more about this? And then she's like, I actually do have another question, but I'll wait because, you know, it might be something that you address in a future episode. Like, I'm not quite caught up. And I'm like, no, actually, like, ask the question, because we're recording a podcast tonight. Like, maybe, you know, this could be a good topic.
Yes.
And then she is like, all right, here's my question. And I'm like, yes, like, this is what we need to talk about, because it's so good. It's relatable. Also, I love when questions come from other people, because it gives us the opportunity to consider a different like perspective or a different like phase of the process, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for the question. Please, if you're listening right now and you're thinking like, oh man, I've got a question in my mind, there's something I've been considering and I just need something more, please send us a message.
Yes.
On Instagram, on Facebook, text message, whatever it is, reach out to us and ask. And we're really excited to hear from you.
And I just want to leave on on one final thing that I feel like this whole show is about, is most of you already have a billionaire work ethic.
Yeah. You've got $1 billion idea somewhere in your mind.
Well, that too. But you have a $1 billion work ethic. You're putting in the time at your job. You're putting in the time as your entrepreneurial career. You already have the effort, but it is the mental aspects that you need to focus on. You need to get back with the pen and paper, and you need to get back to the alignment of what it is and why and who. And as you figure that out, the fear, the insecurities, all these things tend to go away, because it's so easy for you, because you know where you're going. And that is ultimately what we're trying to relate to you in this message. We can give you 5 tips, we can give you everything, but some of you have just got to get back to the old-fashioned pen and paper and give yourself time. The things that most people don't give themselves is their own time.
Yeah, that's true.
So
we give it to so many other people, even some people that we don't know or even respect.
20 minutes a day writing down 5 ways to market your business. Could you imagine the power? Or 5 different ideas of what you could sell that you love. Could you imagine that list? That's a power list after 30 days, right? It's just like going to the gym and continuing to rep it out, but just doing that for your business. And so it's mostly mental.
Love it.
Mostly mental. You already have the efforts. So with that being said, we appreciate you listening to the Matrimonial Merger, and we are just so excited. And I love seeing how excited you are on these episodes, because you're right. Your purpose here, just sharing it and being so just bright and optimistic and powerful. That's huge.
We all have it inside of us. Just got to let it out.
I appreciate you being
Give
here
ourselves
with me.
permission.
I love our date nights.
I hope it probably makes everyone feel very uncomfortable when we're just like, welcome to our date night.
Welcome to our date night.
It's just one big group date.
It's like a double date.
Thank you all for being here and for sharing a portion of your time today with us, and hope that you go out and make a great week. Oh, my alarm is going off because I've got one last task to check off my list tonight. But anyways, thank you for being here, and go make a great week, and we'll chat with you next week.